Hey everybody, it's Stock Picks by Tim, and in this video, I'm gonna give you guys some proof of why small caps are so undervalued compared to the overall market. Also, a couple of things you definitely want to keep in mind over the next few months, over the next few weeks. I'm also gonna look over Bitcoin. We're also gonna look over VGX. It went on an absolute run last night, and surprisingly, it didn't take it all back yet. I'm gonna give you some support levels, some resistance levels there, and we're also gonna look over a couple of small caps, because why not? Now, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I definitely appreciate you guys. And let's look at TradingView's heat map. And looking at TradingView here, you'll see that we've got a relatively red day with a few stocks just barely up. And same thing with small caps. We've got small caps selling off pretty hard. You know, we've got Bingo, Workhorse down 6%. Definitely, I think those are great to average into if you've got a position. Cleanspark's down a nice 5%. ChargePoint just came out with earnings. I think it was good. You know, revenue wasn't bad at all. I mean, it would have been nice to see them break farther, even farther than the last quarter, but I couldn't complain with their numbers that they gave. They saw a little bit lower commercial, but they did see higher residential. They saw an increase in residential sales, and they have a huge backlog. And despite this macro environment, they still beat their revenue expectations, and they kept their outlook. They didn't lower their outlook. You know, I'm very bullish on ChargePoint, and to see how they did during this hard time, it's very telling of how they will do when times turn around. You know, when inflation starts subsiding, when those high costs that hit the consumer, you know, are gonna kind of let go a little bit. When people start traveling more, people use the EV charging more, obviously, and that's all gonna greatly help ChargePoint. Of course, also the revolution that's right in front of us, EVs, in my opinion, are the future. Of course, gas will be required for multiple years, for, you know, a long time. I mean, I'm not thinking about like large trucks. I'm mainly speaking about commuter vehicles. You know, I could definitely see EVs, and with the government pushing it, I could definitely see that being the way of the future. So I think now's a great day to get into this article because small caps are so beaten down, and I love talking about them when they are pulling back, when they're red, when there's fear in them. I typically don't like talking about them when they're, you know, up 10, 15, 20%. Now, I wanted to quickly bring up Bitcoin because I think it's relevant as well. Bitcoin has dropped quite considerably from, you know, this trend line that it was following. Once it broke out of that, people saw that as well, and it accelerated that selling. It does seem like we're trying to establish the support here at the 200 EMA, and this happens to be right around 30,500, 30,600, which was our previous resistance. We broke out of it. It became our support. We will see if it holds and continues to hold as a support. Now, one thing I did say the other day was I'm going to likely wait for Bitcoin. It was pushing up quite a bit. Now that it's pulled back, I think it is a great time to nibble at it again. And seeing the RSI so oversold definitely gives me more confidence. However, the MACD is still curling down. We will see if it holds this support. If it doesn't, it's definitely in for some lower levels. But I'd rather buy it now than buying into that strength the other day. So things can change very quickly. That's why it's good to maybe give it another day. Wait a little bit. Be patient. Patience is always a virtue, and patience pays out in spades in the stock market, typically, and crypto as well. I'll leave you guys this article below, as always, but I wanted to touch on a few things that are definitely eye-openers and people shouldn't be sleeping on. So, as we all know, the market trades in cycles. Sometimes large caps are the market leader, sometimes small caps. You know, sometimes one will underperform the other, sometimes one will outperform the other. Now, as quoted by Jason Pride, the Chief Investment Officer at Glenmead, we basically just think that small caps have fallen too hard. If the small caps group's recent performance is any guide, other investors are now questioning the extent of the recent declines. Since its year 2022 closing low on May 11th, the Russell 2000 has gained 8% while the S&P has only gained 5%. So it seems after that base, that May 11, May 12, the Russell has been outperforming compared to the S&P, and this may be the start of it. And something I think that's really important that you should listen to here is that strategists at Bank of America Global Research wrote in May that the Russell 2000 has fallen much of the way towards its average decline in times of recession, while the S&P 500 had dropped about half as much as its recession-era slump. Okay, and that's very key. I think that's very important that, you know, when we do get into a recession, it's very likely that by then the Russell will already be on its recovery. And another key point, the Russell 2000 traded at the end of April at 12.5 times their earnings, below the average since 1985 of 15.4. The valuation puts the small caps at its cheapest relative to the large cap Russell 1000 since 2001. And most importantly, for those of you that are worried about a recession, for those of you that are worried about just a further fall, small cap stocks tend to beat large caps when you're coming out of a recession. And in particular, that outperformance often begins well before the recession ends. So I do think that's important for you guys to keep in mind during these times. You know, just be aware that I would definitely argue that for small caps, we are much, much, much closer to the bottom than we are to the top. And some of you could even, you know, look at May 11th, May 12th and say that could be the bottom. It's very possible, only time will tell. But if we do come anywhere near those levels, you better believe I'm going to be a very strong buyer. I am very confident in these small caps at the current price. That being said, you definitely want to pick and choose your favorites. You definitely want to pick and choose your high conviction plays. Not everything is always as it seems, so just be careful out there, guys. So one small cap that I absolutely love, you guys have heard me talk about this one if you're familiar with the channel, that's going to be Indi, INDI stock. And this one has been absolutely running. Their earnings just came out on May 13th, May 12th, right at that capitulation, right at that max fear. It just so happened. Earnings came out good. They gave good guidance. Revenue was great. They still have a huge backlog. Very bullish on Indi, guys. And this thing has just blown up since then from about $5 all the way up close to an $8 resistance before pulling back to about $7.50. I still think it is great to add to at this price despite its recent run up, but just be aware, you know, that it has ran up quite a bit. So it's very possible it starts pulling back, take some of those gains back, you know. But having said that, I really love Indi. Even at this price, I still think it's a great deal, and I'm still very long term on Indi. Absolutely love this one, and I have no reason in the short to mid term to even think about selling the stock. I am beyond bullish for this, and this is my highest conviction semiconductor play by a mile. Definitely recommend you guys check this one out. And think about this, it is still over 50% from its highs, and it's still just sitting right around $1 billion market cap. When you look at the future potential of this company, when you look at the fact that they supply some of the leading manufacturers with chips, when you look at the fact that cars are going to need more and more chips down the road as they use ADAS or advanced driver assistance systems, and I honestly believe Indi will be the market leader for auto manufacturing chips. It's just a matter of time. Definitely bullish on Indi, but let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Next up, I wanted to mention ChargePoint, and I will leave you guys a link below if you want to listen to the earnings. I cut it up. I wasn't present on it, but I did cut it up for you guys. It took it from about an hour long to roughly 39 minutes. Definitely recommend you listen to it if you haven't yet. I am still very bullish on this one, even at its current price. It did start fighting resistance right around $14, but just keep an eye on this uptrend. It will likely test this, probably around $12 I would expect, before either bouncing from it or pushing down. Now that's just some patterns, that's just some technicals. It's definitely possible that this can fall a little bit further. I'm very bullish on ChargePoint for the long term. Now they gave good earnings despite this macro environment we're in, so just imagine how their earnings will be when we get back out of this. You know, besides this quarter, they have literally been gaining revenue consistently, quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter, from being roughly like a $30 million per quarter company to almost $80 million over the time of a year. That's ridiculous. That is great. And most of the stocks in the market that do the hugest moves are usually companies that have that revenue just skyrocketing. And yes, this was one quarter that we didn't see that with ChargePoint, but I'd argue next quarter we will see a nice increase in revenue. And even in the quarters to come, they are expanding into Europe, and they did cite that a lot of their problem was backlog. And they're not the type of company to have inventory, not have waiting. It's usually, you know, the orders come and they're there. There's no backlog. There's no there's no like turnaround time, I guess you could say. So that is one thing that they mentioned in the earnings call, that, you know, they do have a huge backlog and they are facing issues with supply chain problems still. But they did say that they are easing and they are working their way out of it. So I am very excited for ChargePoint for the long term, and I will take this current market environment as a great opportunity to buy ChargePoint. Next is Cleanspark, Clsk, and I actually did pick a little bit of this one up today. I am definitely overextended on this one, but I just can't pass up a good deal on this. With Bitcoin's fear currently, and also with CleanSpark pulling back a little bit today, I saw it as a golden opportunity to buy. And what I want to see with this one short term is that it holds this support here. It has this trend line. It bounced off like 3-4 times. And as we get through the next few days, it's definitely possible CleanSpark tests this trend line roughly at around 530, 540 or so. It is getting very close to it. We'll see if it bounces off of it or if it pushes down. Just looking at the MACD and the RSI and the candles, it definitely looks like it can push farther, but I still see it at this price as a great time to add. And remember guys, their mining update is coming out very soon. It's either going to be like tomorrow, the next day, or the next day. Usually it's anywhere from the 2nd to the 4th, and I will be covering it, giving you guys all the information. I'm very excited to see where they've been selling their Bitcoin at, if they have at all, and just their strategy lately for their selling of Bitcoin. So far, they haven't disappointed. They've sold at what I've seen so far as the great opportunities to sell Bitcoin. And if they didn't, they'd be sitting here with Bitcoin at a much lower price than if they were to sell, which they did. So I'm very bullish on CleanSpark. I do have faith in their strategy with Bitcoin, but I'm still curious on, you know, where they're going to sell at this in this current environment. Have they been selling? Have they just been adding to their balance sheet with Bitcoin? We're also going to want to see what kind of daily production they're doing. Are they now at 11 Bitcoin per day, pushing towards 12? How are they doing there? And also, let's get an update on that immersion cooling. Just like with many stocks, on that fateful day, 11th and 12th of May, we hit that bottom and it has been uptrending ever since. We will see if the trend continues. But even if it doesn't, you know, I am extremely bullish at this current price as a long-term investor. But looking short-term, it's definitely possible we continue this trend. Now, finally, I did want to touch on VGX. I covered this one in a video last night. It has been absolutely running from about 80 cents. It did hit its resistance of $1.30. And I'll show you guys here. It actually barely went over $1.30 before pulling back, surprisingly. But keep an eye on it. See that it does hold on this 50 EMA. It is nice to see that it's still holding some of its gains despite Bitcoin having a huge drop. So that's definitely interesting that, you know, VGX is kind of diverging from Bitcoin. Although I'd say Bitcoin's recent drop is definitely contributing to this pulling back, but it was already starting to pull back, already starting to establish a support at about $1.15. Bitcoin, I would say, pushed it down to about $1.07, but it didn't take everything back. So I do think a lot of these gains are likely to stay with us. And one thing you got to look out for with VGX is we've got something coming up on Friday. I'll leave you guys a link below to the CEO's Twitter, but they are going to do a little event here regarding the rewards for VGX. So they're going to be dropping some information soon. Definitely stay tuned. It could just be some hype. This could sell off on Friday, which is the day of the event. But regardless, you want to listen up and see what's going on. See what their new rewards are going to be. And just any progress they made, any extra little tidbits of information. Thanks for watching, guys. And until next time, take it easy.